Hello! Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Catherine, and I'm here to talk about books. I did it. Okay, to be fair, this is not all from one go. This is an accumulation of books probably for the past 2-3 weeks. Yeah. I'm guilty. What can I say? I can't make any excuses for myself. I have so many books on my shelves that are just begging to be read, but I also just love going to a bookstore. There's seriously nothing better than when you have a nice coffee, you're warm and toasty, you're in a cool outfit, you're with a friend or you're with your boyfriend, and you're just walking through the shelves, smelling the books, feeling the books. There's just nothing better. I don't know what to tell you. So I got all of these books in some way, shape, or form, either through used bookstores, from thrift stores, from online book shopping, and I just wanted to share them with you. Because I'm very excited. Will I read them? Remains to be seen, since books from past hauls are still waiting to be read, but yeah, I could be buying drugs, okay? I could have a shoe addiction, okay? And I just have a book buying addiction. I think it's fine. It's fine. Let's get started. The first book is actually a book that I got yesterday. I went to Ravenswood Used Books with my boyfriend. Perfect example. We got some coffee, we walked around, we looked at books. I love this bookstore. It's very packed in there, very tiny. There's books like on the shelves, books on books on books, stacks of books. It's very kind of chaotic, but I kind of love those stores because I really like to dig and look for books. And I really had to dig for this one, and I found it in the Western section. It's The Big Rock Candy Mountain by Wallace Stegner. I have Crossing to Safety by Wallace Stegner, and I still haven't read it yet, but I always wanted to get my hands on this one. I don't know what it is. The title, The Big Rock Candy Mountain, gives me the creeps. That's weird, I know, but it just does. I don't know why. It's in reference to the song. It's an old folk song, The Big Rock Candy Mountain. Maybe it's just Burl Ives' cover I don't like. It gives me the ick. I don't know, but it's basically a song, like an old hobo song, singing about it's a hobo's paradise, the Big Rock Candy Mountain, cigarette trees, and all things that, hobos would find to be their paradise, and that's the title that Wallace Stegner chose for this book. It's basically about this family, I believe it's in the turn of the century or maybe in the 30s, but it's this family and they're basically just scraping by. They're just moving from town to town, they're just trying to make it, and I know that the patriarch of the family is pretty ruthless, and it's sort of about their journey and about their relationships and how they are trying to just make it in America. It's supposed to be really good. It gets great reviews on Goodreads, and I just am interested in this. I love a good family story. I love a good story with family with compromised morals. That's always very interesting to me. And I think this is kind of just an American classic. I know Wallace Stegner did wind up winning, I believe, the Pulitzer, so I don't think he won it for this, but he did win it. So I'm interested in reading Crossing to Safety, but I think I might pick up The Big Rock Candy Mountain first, so. Wallace Stegner. Ooh, next I got this at Uncharted Books in Andersonville, Chicago. Great bookstore, very friendly. They have a bookstore dog named Ramona, and she's so sweet. But I always like stopping in there. They're very nice folks, and they always have a good selection. Nothing was really calling my name except Flush by Virginia Woolf. This book is about Elizabeth Browning Barrett's, right? No, flip that. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the poet's Cocker Spaniel. So this is a little bit about Elizabeth Barrett Browning's life through the eyes of her dog. And I just think that's so cool, because Virginia Woolf is someone who is very interested in the old poets and about literary history, and so to examine this poet's life through her dog is very fascinating. Also because I believe Elizabeth Barrett Browning was pretty private. She was a little bit of a recluse. She didn't really want people to know about her private life, so it was almost a way for Virginia Woolf to write about her, but in a way with a companion that would be very close to her and that wouldn't be able to speak otherwise. I just think it's a cool concept. And this is a Virginia Woolf book I never see in stores. I always see To the Lighthouse, you always see Mrs. Dalloway, you always see her more famous books, but I never see Flush. So when I saw it, I was like, you know what, I might as well just pick it up. And I am going to read everything Virginia Woolf writes. I don't make the rules, I'm just gonna do it. So I'm happy to have this with me. So this means I have Flush and I have The Waves by Virginia Woolf in my bookshelf that I haven't read yet. So I don't procrastinate on Virginia Woolf. I always I probably will wind up reading one of them this year because I love Virginia Woolf. Next two. These are two books I got from A Libri, which is a cool online seller that connects you with independent booksellers and used booksellers, and they ship to you. I will say the shipping is a bit killer, but I still like to support these smaller book businesses. So I like to go through A Libri, or I usually go through Better World Books or Thrift Books if I'm ordering online. But I just happened to go through A Libri this time, and one of the books I got from them was The Door by Magda Szasbo. Magda Szasbo is a Hungarian writer. This is about a woman and her housekeeper and their relationship. So basically the housekeeper has sort of kind of taken over this woman's life, and the woman has become really dependent on this housekeeper, and it's sort of about how they have a bit of a codependent relationship. It's, as far as I know, that seems to be what the relationship is like. They're a little bit like, you are everything. And I also love stories of women and obsession. Like anytime a woman in a book gets like very obsessed with something and it's all encompassing, I'm into that, especially if it is kind of about a parasocial relationship or a codependent relationship. I really, and women are involved in it, I think it's very cool. It's a bit of a cliche at this point, but the unhinged women's narrative, one of my faves. Like I love anything like that, or anything that involves someone slowly taking control, either over a town, like The Auctioneer, as I've mentioned in my TBR, or just like taking over someone's life, and they slowly all encompass them. If you've ever read Goosebumps, The Dummy, you know what I'm talking about. I always like stories like that, so if I'm hoping that's what this kind of has. It has elements of that, because I'll be really into it. Unfortunately, I will be out of the country when my book club reads this, so I'm just gonna read it on my own. I might bring it with me on my trip, and this might be what I'm reading as I'm hiking to the Incas. I'm so excited. I'm really excited for this. I've wanted to get my hands on this a while, and when my club announced they were reading this, I was so excited because I've had my eye on this book for a really long time. So I decided just to, even though I won't be there, I'm just gonna pick it up anyway and read it. So, The Door, Magda Szasbo. If you haven't watched my Storygraph video yet, I suggest you go watch it. It's very fun. I basically used Storygraph, which is an alternative to Goodreads. It's like a book logging and book social media platform. I used that to help me pick my books that I order online, one of which is not here yet. 100 Artist Manifestos is not here yet. I had to order that from a separate site because that book was actually kind of hard to get my hands on, something I probably should have thought about when I wound up selecting the books that I selected. That one was kind of hard to find, so that's coming from another seller and it might not come for a bit. But this other one was very easy to find. I found it on A Libri and I got it within a week, and that is Gothic Tales by Elizabeth Gaskell. It's in this nice penguin edition, which we love the penguin black spines. They're some of my favorites. And I'm just really excited. I was just flipping through, kind of starting to read some of these, and I'm very excited. These are basically just quintessential Victorian Gothic tales. It all happened on a dark, stormy night. Like they were the ones that basically invented that vibe and that feeling. And I already know, I'm like, this is going to be that exactly. There's Salem witch hunts, the old nurse's story, evil doppelgangers. I mean, come on. If I am going to read this, I'd probably save it more for the fall, just because it's gothic and spooky and atmospheric. And this October, I really want to do a whole, the whole month just dedicated, and maybe doing a vlog on it, just dedicated to spooky, dark, macabre tales. So this would probably be better suited for that. So I'll wait for now, but I'm very excited to read this. So thank you, Storygraph, for picking my book. Next, I bought at the bookstore that I have this book club at, because I usually, every other book, or maybe every couple of books, depending on where we're at with what we've spent, I usually will buy a new book from them, because the whole point of them having this group is so that they sell books. So every so often I will buy the book from you folks, because that's kind of the point. So I did buy this from them, and it's the book that we are reading for March, which from the time I'm recording this, it means it's due in a week, 2 weeks. I gotta get to it. It's The Hearing Trumpet by Leonora Carrington. I am so excited for this. I only know Leonora Carrington as a surrealist artist. In terms of artist movements, the surrealists have always fascinated me, and it's always been my favorite art movement, just aesthetically, but also to learn about. And Leonora Carrington was not only a woman in the movement, and there weren't that many, she was a woman surrealist, and she was from Mexico. And just look up her paintings, they are so cool and funky, but to learn that she also was a surrealist writer is awesome because we love a hyphenated queen. We love when she's an artist, she's a philanthropist, she's a writer, she's everything. My boyfriend did get me her collected stories. It's in this really cool kind of square squat edition. So I have that, but I haven't read it yet. But I had to get my hands on this for the book club. This is like, I can't even explain what the plot is. The novel begins in the bourgeois comfort of a residential corner of a Mexican city and ends with a man-made apocalypse that promises to usher in the Earth's rebirth. In between, we are swept off to a most curious old age home run by a self-improvement cult and drawn several centuries back in time with a cross-dressing abbess who is on a quest to restore the Holy Grail to its rightful owner, the goddess Venus. Like, come on, that's so cool. There's drawings throughout here, but I think they're her sons. I actually don't think they're her drawings. They don't really look like any of her paintings. Someone from my book club was like, oh yeah, no, those are terrible. Like, they're not hers. I don't think they're terrible, but they're certainly not. They're like maybe inspired by her style, but it's definitely not her who drew these. But I am so excited to read this. I have to pick it up. Really, I should probably pick it up this week and start. But I know I'm gonna get through this really quickly. And my next meeting is a selection meeting, which means I get to pick which books we read. Not me exclusively, I help pick books. But yeah, very excited. Very excited for the Hearing Trumpet. This is like me advertising all of the great used bookshops in Chicago. These next three are from Myopic Books in Wicker Park, Chicago. If you are into used books in any way, shape, or form in Chicago, you know this bookstore. It's very famous. Always a great selection of books. Just a really cool atmosphere, really good time. So if you're ever in Chicago and you like used books, take a trip to Wicker Park. Myopic will help you out. I would film in there one day, but they don't allow filming. So anyway, so one of the first books that I got there is Clear Light of Day by Anita Desai. This is an Indian book. I picked this up because if I make a favorites video, my favorite books of all time, obviously The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy would be in there because I love that book so much. So this I picked up and was suggested to me basically by Goodreads because I love that book so much. Very similar themes of this is a family drama, it's a family saga, and it's about a family that's kind of falling apart. And it takes place in India, so very, very similar. Set in India's Old Delhi, Clear Light of Day is Anita Desai's tender, warm, and compassionate novel about family scars, the ability to forgive and forget, and the trials and tribulations of familial love. So it's about the Das family, and they kind of, they were tight at one point, and they're kind of growing apart. And I, again, love a family drama. We love when families got the issues. Not in real life, obviously, but in literature, it always makes for good literature. I believe this was a finalist for the Booker Prize. And the Booker Prize, some books that I've read that are Booker Prize finalists or winners, I've been like, absolutely, and some I've been like, I'm confused. Their metric and their rubric for picking books sometimes is a little bit odd, but I'm hoping this is a good one. I'm hoping we like this one. So, Clear Light of Day, Anita Desai. The next is another Western. This is my second Western of this haul. I'm not someone who's into Western movies at all. Like, I've never seen a John Wayne movie in my life. Other ones are fine, I guess. I'm not that into them, but for some reason, novels, I'm like very intrigued by a Western novel. I have Frank Norris's The Octopus, which is a Western, The Oxbow Incident by, I forget the author of that one. And I'm really interested in reading True Grit. Like, for some reason, Western novels are very interesting to me, but movies, I'm like, we can take them or leave them. But I did see this movie, and I was so taken by it that I really wanted to read the book. It's The Power of the Dog by Thomas Savage. Ooh. The movie is great. The movie has Jesse Plemons and Benedict Cumberbatch, and I believe Kirsten Dunst, too, plays the wife. Very good. Very, very good. These are basically about these two brothers who live on their family's Montana ranch. One of the brothers is like very domineering and is pretty much controlling the relationship, and the other brother is much more easygoing and just has a good heart and is just kind of going along to get along. But they run their family's ranch, and then one of the brothers brings home a wife one day to live with them. The kinder brother brings home his wife, and it creates these kind of tensions. I mean, the movie was really good. Benedict Cumberbatch played the stricter brother, and he was really good. So yeah, it's in 1920s Montana. It's technically a Western. The movie was great, so I really just want to go back to the source material and read the book. Again, at some point I do want to do a movie-book comparison. where I watch a movie, then read the book, or maybe vice versa, and then kind of compare and contrast, because I'm very interested to see how this compares to the movie. Also, a bookmark. Oh wait, they might have given me another bookmark. They gave me 2 bookmarks. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas Savage. Yeah, I might do a comparison. So I'm excited for this one. I'm very excited. Nice large margins. We love that. It makes it go a little bit faster. Next one is a bit of a mammoth. She's a mammoth, of course. And it's David Foster Wallace's The Pale King. David Foster Wallace. I read Infinite Jest back in 2020 because what else are you gonna do during the pandemic but try to tackle that mammoth of a book? Infinite Jest was definitely the most challenging reading experience I've maybe ever had. It's an encyclopedic novel. The world building in that and the complexity of that novel I found to be quite challenging. I often had to really cut out the rest of the world and just concentrate on that book for a long time. The footnotes, the endnotes, nuts, worlds of their own. So the time that novel took was all consuming, but overall I did really love it. There were parts, and like any large novel, there's gonna be parts where you're like, that, what? But then there were parts I was like, no, this is everything, it's so good. So at some point I'll probably reread that book, but I don't think now is the time. But we have his other novel, which was unfinished at the time of his death, but they published it, The Pale King. This is basically set at the IRS in Peoria, Illinois, which, God, that sounds awful. Being in Chicago, if you're not in Chicago, sometimes the rest of Illinois is no hate, but the IRS in Peoria, Illinois sounds like my version of hell. He uses himself, I think, as kind of a character here. The agents at the IRS Regional Examination Center in Peoria, Illinois appear ordinary enough to newly arrived trainee David Wallace. But as he immerses himself in a routine so tedious and repetitive that the new employees receive boredom survival training, he learns of the extraordinary variety of personalities drawn to this strange calling. And he has arrived at a moment when forces within the IRS are plotting to eliminate even what little humanity and dignity the work still has. Ooh, as someone who right now is going through a bit of a transition and is looking elsewhere for day work, I think this is gonna hit. Boredom survival training, that's what day jobs are kind of coming to some extent, especially if you work in a desk job, office job. You know how tedious it really can be. I read the back of this and was like, yeah, this is definitely something I would want to read. If it's anything like Infinite Jest, it's going to be very intense, very detailed, but also very funny. Infinite Jest was also super funny while being incredibly dark. I'm hoping it's similar here. I'll be interested to see how it ends, since of course this was an unfinished novel. Is it that he finished the bones of it and then he was gonna go back and edit, or was it more so that he just stopped at one chapter and then that was it? I don't know. Sort of like how The Mystery of Edwin Drood by Charles Dickens was unfinished. I would be very curious when I eventually read that book how that ends. So I'll be paying attention to that when I do read this one. I imagine this is going to be similar to Infinite Jest. I'm going to have to take my time. I'm going to have to be patient with myself and really go through, because David Foster Wallace, I find, at least for me, to be a bit of a challenging writer. So, Pale King, David Foster Wallace. Moving along. These two I got at a thrift store. So I got these at Village Discount Outlet, which if you're in Chicago and you thrift, you know. Welcome to the Village. I got these books for $1. Maybe, I think one of them was $2. But this one that I'm going to speak about now was just $1, which we love. And this is called 5 Days at Memorial by Sherry Fink. This is nonfiction, and this is about what basically happened to the staff at Memorial Hospital in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. If you know anything about Hurricane Katrina, you realize that the people who were in these hospitals were completely devastated by this disaster, and they basically had to help all of the patients that were in this hospital, and unfortunately had to make some very difficult decisions. So this kind of chronicles the steps that the doctors and nurses had to take to try to save lives and to try to triage some lives. It made some decisions that were ultimately kind of looked down upon by the public and by the press, but these were people who were put into some extraordinary circumstances, some of whom displayed insane courage, some of whom maybe displayed not so insane courage, but in a crisis that was just so unbelievably poorly handled by a certain a certain president. I'm very excited to read this. After Katrina struck and power failed amid rising floodwaters and heat, exhausted staff at Memorial Medical Center designated certain patients last for rescue. Months later, a doctor and 2 nurses were arrested and accused of injecting some of those patients with life-ending drugs. I think truly this will also, not only I know that this is like very well chronicled and well researched, this book has been praised for that, I think it will also just bring up some interesting philosophical and moral questions, which I love when a nonfiction book is able to do that. Who has the power to take away life? When is it appropriate to make those kind of decisions? Was something of this magnitude, this disaster, does that warrant someone making those kind of decisions? What are healthcare providers able to do? I think it's gonna bring up some really interesting things. And I saw it at the store and was like, oh, hello nonfiction. Hey, I was a kid when Katrina hit. What was it, 2005 or 2006? I was a kid when Katrina hit, and I remember the news coverage and I remember it being devastating, but I'm only really learning now as I'm doing my further research just how bad it was, like how truly bad the response was, how bad it really was, and this is, I think, just going to be like a sliver of that. So, woohoo! Again, only fun reads on this channel, and that also includes this last book, which is a mammoth of a book, but in a different way. It's Habibi by Craig Thompson. I was so excited when I saw this at the store. I was so excited because every time I've looked to maybe get this book or pick it up somewhere, or get it online, it's always very expensive. And because, I mean, it's huge. It's this huge hardcover graphic novel. The insert ripped off, because of course it's thrifted, so she's hurting a bit. Yeah, if you buy this book new, it's 35 bucks, but I got it for $2. $2! I was so excited. This was definitely a library book at one point, because it says withdrawn on the pages. This was a library book, and now it's my book. It's a graphic novel. This is basically about these 2 refugee children and their relationship as they basically try to survive. I think for our times, this is an incredibly important book, and just that it's in the medium of a graphic novel, I'm very fascinated by. The artwork looks, it's all black and white. It just looks absolutely stunning. But I know this is going to be rough. This is about 2 refugee children who I think go through pretty much everything they could possibly go through, but at the end of the day they have each other. This is probably going to kill me. This is probably going to reduce me to tears. I want to do a whole series where I talk about graphic novels, because I don't think I've actually talked about them that much before on my channel, but I really love a graphic novel. I got into them maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, and I love them because it's just it's a different way to tell a story. One of my favorites of all time is Persepolis. If you've not read Persepolis, get on it. Get on it. It's so good. Look at the inside page. Oh, gorgeous. I saw this and I was like, no way. And then when I saw it, I was so excited because to get this for $2 is truly a treat. Very excited. Very excited. She's heavy. This book will take you out. It's so heavy. Also, a nice detail too is on the front. The boy is looks a little bit younger here, and then on the back, this is him when he's older and he's holding her, which I just think is just so, this already, I don't know that much about this story, but that already tells me a lot. So, Habibi. Great. Yeah, this is a lot. Considering I do also have a ton of other books, you know, it's fine. They'll all be read. They'll all be read in good time. I have an addiction, okay? I got a problem. I gotta keep buying books. So, well, I'm not gonna get a grip on these. But yeah, this is my haul. Super excited. Super duper excited for these. Are there any books that you got recently? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Have you gone on a book haul? What's like the best book that you've gotten recently? Seriously, tell me. Because again, I can just keep adding to my TBR and I can just keep picking up books. So yeah, let me know what books you've picked up recently. Let me know if you are in Chicago. Let me know of any good bookstores that maybe I don't know about. Obviously, if it's Ravenswood Used Books, Myopic Books, or if it's Uncharted Books, they know me there already. So, but any other stores that you know about, or ones in your hometown that you love, just let me know. I'd love to know. But yeah, Thank you so much. If you like this video, you can like, you can comment, you can subscribe, you can share, you can do nothing, you can do whatever you want. But thank you so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate it. I'll be here, I'll be talking about books, and I will see you next time. Bye.